Good afternoon or good evening, Balmoral. Unfortunately, I have no talent whatsoever, so you'll not get any song or anything from me. But I think what this tells us is Balmoral may not be the centre of Wingecarribee, but it's the centre of the arts. And I think we've got a lot of artists here, we've got a lot of musicians, and I think you're a fabulous village, and we should be very proud of you. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Mark Pepping. I'm the Deputy General Manager at Wingecarribee Shire Council, and I'll be facilitating tonight's meeting. Firstly, I'd like to extend our deepest sympathies on behalf of Council to residents who have lost homes, belongings, pets, gardens, their workplace, and probably most of all, their happy place through this ordeal. Not everyone has gone through the trauma and emotions of what you have gone through. And I just looked at my watch and I see that it's the 24th of February, and I remember 2 months today, we sat out there, and I know a lot of you were still very shell-shocked, coming down, and we're there for you, and I hope that in that little way we've been part of that recovery. So not everyone has gone through that trauma and emotions of what you have gone through. I do speak from experience myself, having been inflicted by bushfires 17 years ago and losing property myself. The recovery is variable for people depending on their circumstances. We have to tailor that recovery process for each person, each family and each community. We often hear of the references of returning to normal. For most of you, normal has changed. There will be a new normal, and the process of recovery is to reset what normal now is for you and allow people to be able to move forward. So tonight is about that recovery process. This is the first meeting, and we'll have as many meetings as it takes for you to get through this process. We're through the disaster, obviously, now. The emergency process. There's 3 stages in any recovery. So you have the emergency process, you have the recovery, and then you have resilience building. So before I go any further, just to let everyone know that this particular meeting is being recorded and live streamed through public viewing via the internet in accordance with Council's Code of Meeting Practice, with the recording stored and made available to the public for later viewing. The recording is subject to copyright. Members of the public attending or speaking at this meeting will be recorded and publicly broadcast. By attending this meeting, you voluntarily consent to your attendance and participation being recorded, and there's a camera just over to my right-hand side. Council requests that everyone present is respectful and use appropriate language. Council does not accept liability for any defamatory, discriminatory or offensive comments that are made during the course of this meeting. Please ensure that all your electronic devices, including mobile phones, are switched to silent, and under the Code of Meeting Practice, public recording of this meeting is prohibited without prior authorisation by Council, so out of the way. Just like to do some introductions. I know Councillor Ian Scandrett is just in the kitchen there. We have the General Manager Anne Prendergast and Deputy General Manager Barry Paul. We also have a number of staff that made themselves available for tonight as well. Many of you would know some of those staff, if they've been up here quite a few times already. I also have apologies from Nathaniel Smith, because Parliament is sitting this week, so he's in Sydney. And we also have apologies from Councillor Larry Whipper and Councillor Ken Housestead. So just a bit of a quick overview of the agenda for tonight. So we have a number of council staff, as I mentioned, state agency and community organisations here, and they'll provide you with an understanding of the services and support available to help you with your recovery. And I know a lot of you have already accessed some of those, but if not, there is certainly those representatives here, and they'll also speak a little bit later. We also want to provide you with an understanding of how local, state and federal government and community organisations are working together to support you in your recovery. Like the fires themselves, this recovery is unprecedented and uncharted territory for us all. When you think about the scale of these fires across New South Wales, Queensland, Victoria, South Australia, 14 million hectares of bushland and countless thousands of homes and buildings that have been destroyed. So we also want to start to get an understanding of your recovery needs and how you want to work through your recovery as a community in the short, medium and long term. So tonight's focus, as I mentioned earlier, it's about the recovery process, and this recovery is about clearing your blocks of land that have got burnt down buildings, just getting back to something of a normality in life, getting back onto your properties in particular. The later stages are probably going to be longer and a more difficult process, which is building the resilience so that these sorts of situations don't happen again and their impacts are less. So, as I mentioned, it's about recovery at the moment. So we'll provide information on the regional recovery efforts because this particular area, whilst we've got Balmoral, we've got Wingecarribee that's been affected from the north in your area and then to the south in Wingelow, Bungadoon and Exeter, and we were out there on Thursday last week. But also within the region that we're part of, which is the Canberra region, we've got councils in our area. I think there was about one council that didn't have any impacts of bushfires out of the 11 councils. So we've got Snowy Valleys, Snowy Monero, Bega Valley, Eurobodalla. Shoalhaven's not in our area, but obviously very close to it. So there's a number of other council areas that are going through the same as what we're going through, and we're working together as a region to help each other with what each council is doing from a recovery perspective. Now, some of you, we did have we haven't got any sheets up here. We did have it up at Balmoral, but at Wingelow, but we'd like to get your feedback after this particular meeting as to what you might want from a recovery perspective so that we can take that down and start building a profile of what we need to do in the future meetings. So we'll be recording your questions. So we've got a question and answer segment a little bit later on. So we'll be taking note of those questions and providing answers if we can tonight. But if not, we'll get back to you with those details, and we'll be doing that through our website and also through other social media, etc. So some of the staff that are here, I know some of you know many of them already. Charmaine Cooper is probably outside. Kath Brennan's here. Kerry Carr is sitting next to her, and Danielle Lidgard. So they'll be moving around a little bit later on. Okay, so now I want to broaden your perspectives on how things are going on a regional basis. And we've got Dick Adams here, who's the regional coordinator that's overseeing the whole process for this region. He'll probably explain a little bit more, but there's a state recovery committee, which is being controlled at the state level, and then there's 4 regional committees, areas. And so we're the southeast, southern New South Wales. There's also one for the Greater Metropolitan Region, which had the impacts of the Blue Mountains, Hawkesbury, Gosford and those areas. Then you've got the Hunter area, Regional Coordination Unit, and then there's the North Coast and New England. So Dick is as our appointed regional coordinator, so is he moving towards... Maybe I'm doing Dick's...
He's just saying goodbye.
Oh, okay, sorry. He's saying goodbye to the Governor General. He's on his way. Okay. Is there anything that anyone wants to ask just quickly now about, as I said, there will be a question and answer segment a little bit later, but are you happy with just to roll on? If you've got any questions, by all means just ask. So I'll introduce Dick now. So Dick will give you a bit of a rundown on the regional recovery. Thanks, Dick.
Okay. Thanks, Mark. Well, good evening, everyone. I'm sorry I was outside. Could I say that I've been appointed by the Premier as the Region Recovery Coordinator. I've been on the ground for 8 weeks now, and I've been to this community a number of times. I was at the fire shed very early in the piece and met the fire captain, Brendan O'Connor. And could I say we've got a very large area. We covered all the way down to the Victorian border and out over the Snowies and up right up to Wagga and Gundagai and Crookwell. But the 2 things that really stick in my mind about this recovery operation so far is that at Balmoral and a little village called Nerragunda, which is out from Badalla, where communities sheltered in the fire shed during the worst firestorm Australia has ever seen, and communities survived utilising their own fire shed. And I think that those 2 instances, in my mind, should etch themselves in Australian history of just the resilience of communities and the reliance that people have had on the rural fire service in this firestorm. I'm telling people in Sydney that, and I'm not Sydney based, I live in the Blue Mountains and I'm used to fire, But I'm telling people this is the largest recovery operation in Australian history, and that it's going to take quite a few years to happen. However, this recovery takes place at community level, and it takes place at local government level, and then we've got a regional recovery committee that I'm on, that we look after all of those issues that can't be resolved at community and at local government level. And then we have an overarching state recovery committee that looks at all of those larger issues about how we're going to get business regenerated, how we're going to get the economy stimulated, and indeed how we're going to get some temporary and longer term housing for people that have been affected. Look, we know that in this Shire, as in a number of other rural shires, there are people who live on small blocks, who have animals, and who just don't want to be relocated somewhere else to live. And they have a need to live on their own block, and we are trying quickly to get some temporary accommodation. But what we don't want, ladies and gentlemen, is we don't want second-hand mining dongers and old caravans and tents and those sorts of things. What we're looking for is we're looking for a better solution for some people that are able to go and live on their blocks, and maybe that can turn into permanent housing later on. So we're working closely with local government, and we're working at state level to try and achieve that. Can I say that the community meetings like this are important for three reasons. The first is that it brings the community together, and wherever we go we're seeing communities coming together, and I would hazard a guess that a lot of you are meeting a lot more of your neighbours who live further out than probably you did before this incident, because like, we're Australians and none of us is as strong as all of us, so we need to be together. The second benefit of these community meetings, of course, is that you can get information rather than on the bush telegraph. You can actually get the information here, and you can get the information from a number of agencies, and you all get it at the same time. And the third benefit is that you have the opportunity then to ask questions and provide us with feedback. And we welcome all of your feedback. It doesn't have to be positive. If there's something that's troubling you, and we can actually, in the Q&A session, and we can try and resolve those issues, we will here tonight. Thank you for the invitation of coming, and I'll look forward to participating in the Q&A later tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Dick. So, as Dick explained, he's part of that regional coordination unit. There's a number of staff, such as myself, Danielle, Steve Rose, you'll hear from later, also participate in subcommittees under that, the regional recovery committee. So we're looking at things a bit like planning controls, building up the communities, returning the economic development of that area. The health and wellbeing is a critical part of the recovery process. So we've got staff that are representing at the regional level, but more importantly, we've also started up our local recovery committee, and having these meetings as part of that process of building up our local recovery committee. So one of the things that we're looking at is looking at assessing the requirements for recovery activities, developing and maintaining the recovery action plan, monitoring and coordinating the activities of agencies with responsibility for delivering services during the recovery, ensuring the relevant stakeholders, especially the communities affected, are involved in the development and implementation of recovery objectives and strategies, and ensuring activities are in line with the New South Wales Recovery Plan. So basically what we've got is the main committee is chaired by the General Manager, Anne Prendergast, and there is a number of coordinators that feed into that process, and then we have state government representatives on there as well. So we have a number of subcommittees, and they look at the social recovery, the built recovery, the economic recovery, natural resources, and the recovery communications. Now I'm going to ask each of those subcommittee coordinators to step forward just to give a bit of an idea and a bit of a sense for you as to what we're doing, what we're looking at, and what we'll be doing in the future. So first of all, I'll just call on Danielle to say a few words.
Good Good evening all. Thanks for having us along tonight. I am the chair of the social subcommittee at council that feeds up into the local recovery committee. So we are having our first meeting this week where we will be meeting with a group of agencies and community organisations to first look at what the impact socially has been of the recent bushfire disaster, and then look at what your needs are going forward, looking at it, putting together an action plan. That will mean we will come out and talk to you more, have more meetings like this to understand what the impact has been and how you want to move forward in your recovery, both in the short, medium and long term. Because what we know is that your recovery journey will change over time, so that's why we want to check in with you regularly to see how you'd like to recover.
Now I'll call on Greg Bray, who's going to talk about the built recovery process.
Good evening. Yes, part of the built panel. The built panel's primary concern is with built infrastructure, roadside infrastructure and roadside vegetation. Initially the focus was on inspections to gather quantified data on what was damaged and how much the cost was and how much we had to complete the cleanup phase, and also identify what hazards had to be assessed and addressed as a matter of priority. Through this, we've quantified the damage costs, and so far our damage costs have come to $280,000 for roadside infrastructure, another $90,000 for building infrastructure, that being toilet blocks, and a further $1.5 million for roadside vegetation, predominantly being trees, as everyone probably understands with the amount of trees issues we've had since the fire's gone through. To date, works have already been undertaken with replacing guideposts, road signs and guard railing all around the Shire and burnt areas. The other part of that obviously is, again, a lot of tree work. And a lot of this, I have to mention tonight too, is with thanks to the ADF, Blacktown Council, Liverpool Council and more recently Sydney City Council. The work they've done has just been fantastic. On a perspective from a council, it's great to know we've got the support from our fellow councillors. We're still in the phase of trying to identify what is happening in Wingecarribee Road, so those figures I've just given you may escalate somewhat once we do get access into the actual Wingecarribee Road. Currently it's too dangerous for us to get down there. There's significant damage where we're off so far, but we can't quantify that until we can actually get in there safely. We've had geotech engineers and do assessment of Wingecarribee and also the roadsides around Balmoral and in the southern villages. So far we've completed close to $300,000 worth of tree works within the villages of Balmoral and Winchester. And the ongoing focus of the built panel is now looking for state government to what funds we can change to actually help supplement the costs of this massive cleanup we're on to. And that's really it for the book now. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Greg. Steve Rosa, is he still here? Steve's coming down. So Steve's the chair of the economic recovery sector, and I think the perspective of all of this is that these fires not only affect people that have lost houses, but it's people that are employed as well. We're a little bit fortunate in our area. We didn't have the loss of commercial properties such as in Mogo and Cobargo and that, but there are still people impacted and businesses have been impacted significantly. So Steve's role is to try and encourage our tourism to regenerate again.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah, I look after tourism and economic development here for the region, and as Mark said, we've been severely impacted from a business downturn and cash flow of business right throughout the Highlands. Whilst the impact on direct businesses in the northern villages and the southern villages are small by nature compared to our cousins down the coast and things like that. They're in their peak season. We're in our off-peak season over that period of time. But as soon as the shingle went back up and we're open for business the first week after January, there was nobody in our area here. So unfortunately the retail businesses were cash flow was down to zero, and in most cases they're looking at 60% loss for the same time this year, last year. So we set up the Economic Recovery Committee, which is an amalgam of tourism, small business, agriculture for the region. Had our first meeting last week, so we've got representatives from government agencies, council, the business chambers, the agricultural sector, farmers and things like that here. We're looking at putting an action plan in place to right the wrong and to actually get businesses back on their feet and farmers back on their feet as well for this region. One of the positive things that we've seen already prior to the group meeting, a number of activities were put in place because we knew that we had to get on the front foot before the formation of these groups by council. Council allotted $75,000 towards a business activation campaign, an awareness campaign. As soon as the RFS gave us the green light to say that we're safe, it's open for business, we're able to go out there and tell our story that is a great place to come, the Southern Highlands. So for the last week and a half, you may have seen the start of a campaign called Share the Love. So we're all sharing the love out there of how great this place is, the Southern Highlands. We've had the business sector put forward close to 100 special deals and offers to invite people back to the Southern Highlands. And as you, as residents of the Southern Highlands here, as proud ambassadors for this region, you have the opportunity to invite your friends and relatives back to the Southern Highlands in the coming weeks and months so that we can get back on track again. So that campaign will go through to the end of June. So it's a major media PR campaign, television, radio, print, the whole, and social media. We've now followed through there with workshops through the Chambers of Commerce for business in the region. We've had 2 workshops with over 110 people attend those in the last 2 weeks. There's a business bus that's coming from the Small Commissioner's office there throughout New South Wales. So if you need assistance on the 16th of March, that bus will be here in the Highlands in Mossvale, and it'll provide all services associated for businesses to be able to get back on track again. And then we'll be looking at all the different subsidies and grants that are coming our way to be able to assist, whether you're in business or you're in an event. There's a lot of money that's been coming our way from federal and state government to assist getting our Shire back on track.
Thank you, Steve. Now I'd like to just call on Barry Arthur to talk about the Natural Resources Recovery Committee.
Yeah, good afternoon. My name is Barry Arthur. I work with Wingecarribee Shire Council. Thank you for having us tonight. The committee that I'll be representing or chairing is the Recovery of Natural Resources. The Shire has had massive impacts to the north and south, big impacts on our wildlife and biodiversity. So we'll be looking at the recovery in a holistic view across the region. In a number of agencies work in the space, including national parks, local land services, Department of Planning, Industry and Environment. And I know that a lot of these agencies have programs that are kicked in place straight away from once the fires have finished. What we'll be looking at obviously is support of the wildlife carers, attending to what needs that are flowing on from their actions, moving into monitoring of what's happened to key sites and species. We know that a number of our species have been heavily impacted across the region. We'll also be looking at things like biosecurity threats, what's happening with weeds and responding to that, and also pest animals. So a lot of the actions will kick in straight away, but I guess a lot of the actions in this particular aspect for natural resources is going to take a long time to recover.
Thank you, Barry. Now lastly, I'll call on John Crawford, our Chief Information Officer, and he's going to talk about the recovery communications.
Thank you for having us here tonight. So, as part of my remit, we are working with the state and federal agencies to collate all the information for you and try and make that as accessible as possible. Council has recently relaunched a bushfire recovery site, which is accessible from our website, which is being updated hourly to keep that information up to date and current for you. We are taking feedback on board, so if there's anything we can do to improve the communications, please feed it back to us, and we'll do what we can to make it more accessible for you. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Okay, the next segment is to talk about the agency updates. There's a number of particularly community-based agencies that are represented here tonight. Before we introduce those particular agencies, I just want to say a special thank you to Kerry O'Grady and the CWA and the RFS for all the work that they've done in coordinating this community recovery hub. Kim as well. There was a lot of goods and everything that came here. I remember Christmas Eve looking in here and I just thought, oh my God, what do we, there's just hundreds of thousands of people here. But it's amazing, and I know that there's still containers out there. Kerry and Kim have said just to keep reminding people there is still a lot of stuff here, and it's for you people here to take that away. Okay, so have we got Sandra from Anglicare?
Just outside of some
Okay, now I'll just call out the name. So Geraldine, if you want to make your way down this way. Peter from St Vincent de Paul, is Peter here? Yep. Oh, sorry. Now Steve from Rural Financial Counselling? No. Southern Highlands Homelessness Service, anyone here from there? Hannah? Yeah. Community Links, Christine. Salvation Army, Phil. There is Local Land Services, Matt. Department of Primary Industries, David. I don't think we've got anyone from Quest for Life. I don't know if... sorry, yes, we do. Yep, so you make your way down here as well. So I'll start with Sandra. I'll give you a 30-second grab for advertise what you've got to offer.
Hi, I'm Sandra from Wingecarribee. We have got some... Oh, sorry. Okay. We have funding to do some financial assistance, so if you're needing food, fuel cards, other sort of things, we have financial counsellor funding. Financial counsellors can come in and do a lot of work for you around mortgages, bank information, insurances and stuff like that. And we also have free counselling for anyone who needs that as well. I think that's about it.
See you outside.
Okay, so good evening everyone. I'm Chris Wildsmith from Community Links. We are an organisation, not-for-profit organisation that has been in this local area for some 30 years. So I say that just to let you know that we are not going anywhere at all. We are funded by the Primary Health Network to provide counselling, and that will go on over a long period of time, whether it's that you feel you need to speak with someone now, whether it's 6 months down the track or 12 months down the track, we will be there for you. So just to let you know, this is the flyer that we have been handing out. There are some copies on the rack down there and also outside with our contact details. We can offer you 12 appointments free of charge. You don't need a referral, you don't have to go to a GP, you don't have to have any sort of care plan to access that, and that's on an ongoing basis. So all you need to do is contact Community Links, let the staff know that you have been affected by the fires, and we'll be able to arrange an appointment for you. Thanks.
Hi everyone, I'm Margie Braunstein from the Quest for Life Foundation. We're a local charity based in Bundanon. We've been invited by Brendan O'Connor to come out to your shed. We're here all this week. We have free massage and counselling, plus we're doing deep relaxations. On Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday we're doing those at 7 till 8 p.m. If you'd like to come, bring your yoga mat. We really believe that if we can reduce the stress on your nervous system, that it can really prevent the onset of long-term chronic post-traumatic stress disorder, which we really want to support the communities with. So we're here all this week until Saturday, if you'd like to pop in and see what we've got on offer. Then we're coming back the same time next month and the same time the month after that. So if you'd like to have some free massage counselling, maybe a support group or deep relaxation session, come out and see what we've got to offer, because we really want to support you. We also have some limited funding for some people to attend a residential program down at Quest for Life on trauma as well. As I said, that's very limited, but if you really know if you're struggling or you know someone struggling, come to a Monday to Friday program. So get in quick if you want to be one of those people. Just contact Renee, she lives in Balmoral. Hey Renee. And it's on your social media pages. Thanks for having us too. It's great meeting you all today, and we hope to meet you this week. Thank you.
Hello everybody, my name is Geraldine Dable and I'm with the Southern Highlands Emergency Services Red Cross team. Some of you we may have met in the evacuation centres, and our team has been coming here every Wednesday and Sunday for the last 3 weeks, and we will continue to do that this Wednesday and finishing this Sunday. And so what we like to do is sit with you, hear stories. If you'd like to share them with us, we want to know how you're going, how your family's going, and if you've applied for any grants. Red Cross have $20,000, which I know some people here have already received with the loss of their homes. There is 2 additional grants now in the last 3 weeks or so. If anybody's been in hospital and been injured for any more than 2 days, there's a grant of $7,500 for that particular person. And there's also a $10,000 grant for a building that has been damaged and is not livable. And we will help you with that, because it gets a bit fuzzy and it's just a bit too much for some people. So we're happy to sit with you, go through it on your mobile phone. You only need 3 documents, some form of ID, licence, passport, something like that. A copy of the top of your bank statement, which says the name of the bank, the BSB number and the account number and your address. Every address must be identical. And the last one is, I can't remember, I'll think about it in a minute. But we also have any of the forms, if say the Lions weren't here or the Vinnies weren't here, or the C3 Church, we all who have grants, and we'll sit with you and you can complete the Merrill grant. We'll sit with you and can help you complete that, and so that gets to the right place as well. But anyway, there are 3 documents there. I've mentioned to the licence. I forgot. Utilities, rate notice or gas bill or something like that. But anyway, please come and see us. We're here on Wednesday and Sunday between 10 and 3.
Hi everybody, I'm Phil White, Salvation Army Money Care Financial Counsellor. Sandra's already told you what financial counsellors do. We work with families and individuals in times of financial stress. We have a branch with a full-time financial counsellor. We're located with Community Links at Balmoral, and I'm going to be in the region for the indefinite period, at least 2 days a week, basing myself probably here on Wednesdays. And if my wife lets me, I'll be here on Sundays as well. So I do encourage anybody, because we are experts at dealing with credit card companies, car finance companies and banks, if you're starting to find any stress at all, come and see us earlier, sooner rather than later. We can get things in place for you, and as you're going through the recovery process, if you can put your finances to one side and worry about rebuilding home, etc., that may be a help to you. Thanks.
Good evening everyone. Peter Doris is my name. I'm the Regional President for St Vincent de Paul. I'm a volunteer with the organisation. Our 3 conferences are processing grants for those that want them, and we're doing our normal conference work where we can help you with food and clothing. Our Southern Highland homeless can do caseworking. They've been here in Balmoral, I think, for the past 4 or 5 weeks, and they also process some loans as well. So just come and see us and we'll help you out as best we can. Thank you.
Okay, everybody, I'm Dave from DPI.
Matt from Local Land Services.
So we can help producers, and I'll just talk about some of the things that DPI can do. But first of all, I've been working in recovery since about 2015, and I've never sung. And it just makes me feel like this must be a really special town. So thank you very much for having me here this evening. So from a production perspective, we can help you in two ways. We can help you socially and we can help you financially. So if you know any producers that want to get in touch with some psychosocial support, we can link you in that way. We can also assist you with grants and financial counselling. So come and see me afterwards, or go to dpi.newsouthwales.com.au. Thank you.
Okay, just quickly, so Matt from Local Land Services. So we've got a bunch of experts on staff that can provide advice on everything behind the farm gate. To do with erosion, water management on property, which is our soil conservation services division, restoration of natural areas, biosecurity with your pest animals and plants, animal health and welfare with our district veterinarians, and whole farm planning and farm business management as well. So yeah, please talk to us, either call the office or speak to me after the meeting. We can help line you up with some advice and even some programs that we can run in this area to help everyone get back on track. Thank you.
I'll call on, is it Stephanie or Jodie? Jodie's going to. Also Susan, the Disaster Chaplain Service. Is Susan still around? Yep, Susan, if you want to come down first. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Susan Phelan. I'm a chaplain with the Disaster Recovery Chaplaincy Network. Our chaplains have been active in evacuation centers and recovery centers and community meetings such as this one all over the state. And while we don't have money to offer, we do have ourselves to offer. And we're here to hear your story and to offer emotional support. We know that grief is a process that everyone goes through a little bit differently, and there's no time frame on that. And so we're here to support you as best we can as you begin the recovery process. We will be around at recovery meetings, and for as long as that takes for this community and for others who've been affected by the fires.
Okay, now we'll move on to just a couple of, we've got 3 state government agencies. So the first we'll hear from is Service New South Wales. Jodie is going to speak. Now this is very important. I hope most of you are aware of the coordination, but please take information down if you've got, and I know there's some information, so I'll hand it over to Jodie.
Good evening everyone, how are you all tonight? Service New South Wales, we're set up outside tonight. We've got a few flyers here. A lot of you that we've spoken to this evening have already registered. If you haven't registered for the clean-up recovery, if you're not registered, you're not going to be seen, you're not going to be heard. You need to register, whether it's for residential, small business or primary producer. Come and see us if you're not registered and we'll get you registered. If you haven't heard from somebody and have registered, please come and see us so we can take your name and details and maybe see if we can escalate things for you along the line. Now tonight we've got a few forms out there. Some of you have already picked up. If you've lost your birth certificate, your marriage certificate, or a death certificate, change of name certificate, they're births, deaths and marriages through us if you're bringing in this form with some minor identification like a Medicare card or a driver's licence. You've got 5 applicants on one form, so come and pick them up if you've lost those things. We've also got some other information out there. Bushfire recovery assistance, there's a couple of brochures on there. One on the clean-up process, that's a really good one, that's really out at the moment for the recovery process. Also our bus, our mobile service centre, they're going to be in Balmoral on the 11th of March. So if you're around town and you want to come in and see them about anything, they're here to help you and guide you through the process. Make sure that you can apply for the grants if there's a grant to apply for. Make sure that everything else is, all your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed. That's what they're there as specialists to help you do. So they're going to be here. They'll also be in Tama on the 12th of March. So they're going to be around every 8 weeks around that, and they're going to try to link up with the Disaster Recovery Committee. So they'll be working in line and linking up with that. So call into your local service New South Wales, bring them, come and grab a pen off this evening. There's some complimentary things out there you can take home with you this evening. And ring our contact centre, go into your local service centre. Sorry? Yes, I forgot, I always forget that step. One very exciting thing tonight is your council rates. So if you feel that you want to take your council rates into the local service centre, take them in and we'll send them off to our processing centre for people that have been fire affected. They're either waiving or refunding. So test your eligibility. We're not saying you're all going to get it, but go and test your eligibility to make sure that you haven't missed out and left anything on the table. All right, thank you.
Just in case anyone isn't aware, our local Service New South Wales outlet is in the Homemaker Centre in Mittagong, and their number is 137788. So if you wish to ring them and register, you can do it that way as well. Legal aid, Zaki, is Zaki around? Zaki, you're on next.
Hi everybody, my name is Zach. I'm from Legal Aid New South Wales, based in the Campbelltown office. I'll make this very quick. Look, within Legal Aid we have 3 different divisions. The division I'm representing this evening is the civil law branch, so we can help you with things like issues with your insurance company, with your employers. If you're renting a property, if there's any issues happening with the landlord and things like that, we can help you out. Now, the main thing that I want to leave you with, and I've got a table at the front there with some information, flyers, contact numbers, is we have created a disaster response hotline. So if you can't get to us, you can reach us on that disaster response hotline. If you have any questions in relation to your insurance company or anything you're just not sure about, and the advice that we often give is that if it doesn't feel right, just give us a buzz, have a chat to us, and then we can help you along the process. So we've got some flyers, contact numbers just at the front here. Come and have a chat.
Thanks, Zach. Phil from Public Works will talk about the clean-up process.
Thanks, Mark, and good evening. My name is Phil Bitto. I'm the Program Manager for the Southern Zone for the clean-up program. I'm representing Public Works and Lango Walk tonight. As you may be aware, Public Works has been appointed as the lead agency by the state government for the clean-up program. The clean-up program is jointly funded by the state and federal government. As you may be aware, at the moment there's in the order of 2,500 homes that have been destroyed across the state, and there's thousands more outbuildings on properties that have also been destroyed. So Public Works has appointed Lango Walk as the managing contractor for the clean-up program. That's been done through a process, expression of interest process and a review process. And just over 3 weeks ago now, Lango Walk was appointed as that managing contractor. Since that time, they have been mobilising across the state. You may have seen on the news that they have commenced some trial sites in various locations. At the moment, that's up in Rainbow Flat, down at Mogo, and in the Blue Mountains. So they've set up, they're setting up their structures so that they've got 20 management teams across the state. Of those, we've got about approximately 13 of those that are going to be in the southern region. One of those teams is going to be in this Shire, and works have already commenced as far as getting in contact with people who have registered for the clean-up program. The clean-up program is very focused on getting local contractors involved in that clean-up, and you would see, if you are interested, through the Service New South Wales website, there is an opportunity for local contractors to register through that process. The clean-up program is an opt-in program, so that means that people have to register, and you probably would have heard Service New South Wales people already talking about that registration. there's the number's 137788, and you can look online and also register that way. We just ask that there may be a couple of processes through Service New South Wales to register, so just make sure if you are registering for the clean-up that you're very clear that you have registered for the clean-up in your application process, or if you're talking to someone from Service New South Wales. Just in regards to some of the information about the clean-up program, there are some fact sheets out on the table outside. There's also that fact sheet and some frequently asked questions are also available on that Service New South Wales website. Just to give you just a quick run through, or maybe just a show of hands for those people that may have registered already. Is there anyone who's registered? Yeah? Terrific. So the process will be, now that Lango Rourke have set up a team within the Shire here, in the next 2 to 3 weeks, they should be able to contact everyone who's already registered, and then if anyone subsequently registers to that, they'll also be in touch with them. So once Lango Rourke get in touch with you, they will discuss the damage that's occurred on your property and discuss some eligibility. Once it's been determined that you're eligible for the clean-up program, they will then arrange to meet with you on site. They'll run through a site scoping exercise where they will get you to identify anything that you might want left, and then they'll also get your sign-off to allow them to commence that work on their property. So I've just brought along with me today our Chief Environmental Advisor, John Mesa. So he knows everything to do with environmental matters and asbestos matters. So as far as the information we've got at this stage through the initial impact assessment audits that we've done, it looks like approximately 40% of properties that we've looked at do have asbestos containing material on them, and we just know that I suppose there's a process that needs to be followed in regards to the removal of that, and John's very familiar with that process, so I thought I'd just bring him on so he could just share a little bit about that, and then maybe later on when we have questions, if there's any specific questions in regards to that process of asbestos, we can answer as well.
Yes, hello everyone. I suppose I'll just give you a little bit of a background on how it works with your properties after they've been assessed and inspected with asbestos. It's been confirmed it contains asbestos. The sampling we do, if we find one piece of asbestos on the property, we consider that the whole site is asbestos contaminated. It might be a fuse board, it might be some packers under the actual bearers. After that property's been determined to be asbestos, the next stage is Lango Rourke will be engaging what's called a licensed asbestos contractor. The licensed asbestos contractor will also be working with what's called an independent licensed asbestos assessor. What they do first is they'll set up the site. You'll have a fence around the site, and they'll set up some air monitoring on the boundaries of the fence a day before the site works start. That air monitoring is so they get a baseline of reading before they start, so they know what's in the air before they start actually doing site works. When they mobilise, the contractors will all have the correct PPE on, they'll have signage on the fence, the neighbours will be informed of the work. That's part of a work cover requirement. And then the next stage will be that they will go onto the site and they hand pick all the bits of fibro off the site and bag it up into double bags. So all the bonded fibro, which is now considered friable, is actually picked off the site. After they've done that, it allows them to actually start using dust suppression over the site. They'll spray mists over the site, and they'll bring in heavy machinery to actually remove the bricks, the corrugated iron, the porcelain, the tiles. It's all considered asbestos contaminated material. It goes from the excavator into the back of a lined truck, which will have black plastic lined around the outside. The black plastic lined truck will also have an EnviroTarp cover over the top. And those trucks will be taken to an asbestos landfill that's been nominated before they start. whole process probably takes about 4 or 5 days to remove what's on the site, and they also take 100 mils of soil off the site in the asbestos contaminated area. After they remove that 100 millimetres of soil, they then do some soil samples to determine and confirm that there's no asbestos remaining on the site. You're giving a clearance certificate. The clearance certificate is then given to council to show that your house is no longer a contaminated site, and you can proceed to build from there. So, questions now or later?
Just to give people just a quick update of, I suppose, program, just generally in this area. So the building impact assessment process, you may be aware of that, where people have actually gone onto your property and had a look for specific hazards, that samples have been taken to see if there might be some asbestos containing material there. So that process informs the, I suppose, designating whether a property does have ACM or if it doesn't, and what control measures might need to be used, like John said, for the cleanup. So generally for a property that does not have ACM, asbestos containing material, then generally the cleanup would be 1 to 2 days, and then the process is obviously a little bit more complicated with sites that have got ACM and may take up to 4 or 5 days, as John explained. So today there's been a Lango Walk team that has started doing contacting people, and they will be starting that process of doing those property audits with people over the next coming weeks. The main removal works will commence in mid-March in this area, and it's expected that will go through to May at this stage. So as I said, there are lots and lots and lots of people impacted by this. The works are commencing, but I just ask people, just be patient with that as well.
And last, I've got Kate to come down and talk about the EPA. Now, from after Kate, we'll be going in questions and answers. So if you've got any questions, if you want to make your way down to the front here to the microphone, and then we'll start with that. So I'll hand over to Kate, and then we'll move to questions.
Hi everyone, thanks for hosting this tonight. I don't have an awful lot to add other than what John and Phil advised from Public Works Advisory. The EPA's role in the cleanup has predominantly been identifying disposal sites and places where all the waste that's generated can go to. So for this particular area, it will leave the area. We're not standing up any facilities or sites. So most of our work's been in support with Public Works Advisory and Lango Walk. If there's any other issues that you have as a community or individually that don't relate directly to the cleanup, so whether you've got concerns about environment or other environmental issues, you can get in touch with us on the environment line. That number is 131555, and we'll get in touch with each of you individually to address any of those questions that you have as well.
Just so that you know who's spoken and all their contact numbers, Peter, just there with the blue shirt, he has some information sheet with all the contact names and the numbers of people that... Did you bring that with you? Yes. Yeah, we've got that out there, sorry. He did have it on Thursday. So also, all of this information will be available on the council webpage as well, and we've put up a new page dedicated to the bushfire recovery. It's very easy and simple to follow, so I urge you to have a look at that. So, we've got a runner to do the microphone, so if you're more comfortable to stay in your seat, we can go with questions. So anyone, put your hand up if you want to ask a question.
I want to ask how different council, the council Wingecarribee and different another council, how come they not collect the bin, like bin cleaner, 1 year, 2 times, clean up? How different is the different, how different is that?
Okay, so we really want to focus on the bushfire recovery questions. What you're asking about is waste. So we can take that on board and we'll deal with that, because we'll give you some information later, because we really want to try and get the questions about recovery first and foremost. Okay, next question.
Yeah, g'day mate. Just wanted to check with you to see about the green waste. There was a cut-off date of the 28th. Just wanted to find out if there are any extensions to that.
So that's the waste, the cooperation between Wallandilly Council and Wingecarribee. At last week's meeting at Buxton, Wallandilly Council and their residents as well said that there would not be any extension to that 28th of February time frame. So basically you have until this Friday in order to take that. Obviously if you've got building waste and outbuildings and so forth, that will be picked up through that Lango Walk clean-up. Otherwise you will need to either go down to the Resource Recovery Centre in Mossvale, or if you get a private contractor, the waste is also being taken at the Barrel tip site, or whatever resource brick pit in Kirkham Road. So the state government has waived the levies, the state levy, so you won't have to pay that, but you still will have to pay whatever it is per tonnage to remove that waste. But you do have two options in Wingecarribee Shire. So the cooperation between Wallandilly will discontinue this coming Friday.
Is that totally inflexible?
Totally inflexible.
Or is that not good enough?
Unfortunately, it's their facility, and the word that I got is that their capacity and their long term has been significantly reduced because of all of the removal. So, and this is I think Dick will say, this has been one of the things with the regional recovery is a lot of the tips. We don't have a tip site, we don't have a landfill, we have a resource recovery centre. So what goes into our centre has to go out into another landfill site. Councils that own landfill sites, this whole situation has reduced the time frame for which they have to continue offering their service unless new pits are dug or created in the future. So this is why one of the reasons for the longevity of working out the waste removal is to try and coordinate where it's all going to go into different landfill sites. Question?
Hello. I just wanted to ask, the last time I went to a meeting I was told that the Lango Rock clean-up was only for material that was within 3 metres of the house site. Now, can we
Bring
have that
Phil
cleared
back.
up?
Yep, Phil will clear
There's
that up.
lots of sheds here right away from the house.
Yeah, so the program itself is about rebuilding homes, rebuilding people's lives. There's not a set distance from the house that's necessarily been indicated, but it's certainly talking about in the proximity of the main residence. So the outbuildings, if your main home has survived, if you've got outbuildings which are associated with that home, which are in the proximity, they will be considered in the eligibility. Well, it depends. It will be different for different. It will be different for different people. So it might be 10 metres for one person, and it might be 30 metres for another. It may be more. So it just depends on the individual case. So it'll be considered on a case-by-case basis.
And I think the point was too that if you register with Service New South Wales, then that it can be explained and assessed, if you like, when the Lango will come and make the contact. Is that right?
Well, I suppose I'd said before that there's an initial assessment process, so Lango Rock will talk to people. There's certainly properties which aren't eligible under the program, so large commercial properties aren't eligible under the program. Public land isn't covered under the program, and also that whole idea of the proximity to the main dwelling. So often, I suppose that initial eligibility will be considered, but then that might need to be followed up by a site visit to look at the specifics in people's cases.
Next question.
Yeah, it's more of a comment that I'd just like to make everyone aware. I've discussed this with you, Mark, at the last recovery. It's to do with the amount of, and I believe it's part of the recovery for mental and just the sheer bloody arrogance of people that are coming into this area and now using the area as a dump. Now, personally, I've seen on Wilson's Drive, it's there for all of us to see when we head north. Someone's decided to strip a car down and then drop all the door skins and everything else right near the National Park sign. I was also alerted that someone decided to drop 1,000 litre
Grease trap, was it? Grease?
supported container full of disused oil, which was actually, they didn't even have the decency to just put it somewhere other than a waterway. So they've tipped it off, thrown it off the truck, burst open, and the oil's gone into the waterway, into our Bargo, which is on the boundary of Balmoral and Buxton. So I've got to actually congratulate Wingecarribee because we made that phone call, and within 40 minutes we had fire and rescue that lifted it up, put some bunking in, and did some environmental bloody work to stop it flowing any further into the creek. But to make it worse, 800 metres from where that 1,000 litre was dropped, you're probably looking at heading back from East Parade back to Balmoral. So now our fire trails are opened up with all the bare bush. People now think they've got a goddamn right to come into this area and dump their rubbish. Now, this was wasn't a trailer load, it was a bloody truckload of household rubbish. And you can tell by how angry I'm getting. So we're talking about recovering mental health. While years of doing all this good work, we've got people coming in, trashing our bloody town. Now, I believe that's Crown Land, which I spoke to Mark, so we've got a case number, and who knows how long before that department comes back to us. But I've got to tell you know, it's not too hard to work out to get a starting point, and there's a few of us wanted to take it into our own hands and knock on the door and say WTF to whoever this person that's decided to dump all their rubbish. So I think it is, to me, it is related to recovery, because I like to, I guess the question now is, other than us all staying vigilant, because I know another truck that had this, obviously wastewater, got bogged over the back here at 11 o'clock at night. So he wasn't here bloody sightseeing at 11 o'clock at night. Now, I guess the question now is, other than us taking it into our own hands, or maybe all being more vigilant about these people that are coming in, is what deterrents have we got? Because I know it would be an issue for council all the time, costs and dumping, but is there a Facebook, or is there somewhere we can put some more signs up? Because, you know, personally I've taken one ute load already to the tip myself from rubbish, but it's getting a little bit beyond, and we're on trying to recover, and we've got people coming in and dumping.
Thanks, Brett. Look, first and foremost, I would urge you, if you find dumped rubbish somewhere, don't touch it, because if it does have asbestos in there or some other toxic materials, it could cause you some problems. So phone it in. We have what's called a regional illegal dumping squad, called a RID squad. The contact details are available online. What will happen is, if it phones in, one of our rangers will come out, they'll look at it, they'll cordon it off, and then they will phone through to the RID squad to get that attended to as soon as possible. But please phone it in, and unfortunately there are going to be undesirable people around that will just go and dump something because they don't want to pay the tipping costs or whatever. But I would urge you not to take it upon yourself to move that dumped material, in case there is some hazardous materials in there. But certainly, and Kate will speak as well, so hopefully I'll say the right things. Yes, now that's the other thing. We do have access to surveillance devices. So if there's an area that is being hit regularly, so report it. That'll give us the data in which we can then put signage up and also put some cameras up.
Yeah, look, thanks for raising that. It's a really important issue. So it is really important that you remain vigilant. It's something that we're very concerned about, that now there's less people in the community because of damage to their homes, and because, as you say, some of that land's been opened up that previously hasn't been. We're very aware of the risks associated with illegal dumping. It's an environmental crime, it's as simple as that. The EPA and Council have numerous powers to go and investigate matters, but we do rely on people in the community to call it into us. You can either call to our environment line or you can contact council. We exchange information constantly around that. 131555 is the environment line number for the EPA. If you call it in to us, we can pass it on to council and vice versa. Similarly, we also have surveillance cameras and illegal dumping campaigns and strategies, so really happy to have a chat with you afterwards.
And if you can get any vehicle registration numbers, that's really helpful as well. Question?
Okay, I just want to follow up on what was said about that dumping. Debbie and I have been Debbie and I have lived up on Seawood Road for 35 years. It's a bit of a hotspot for dumping. It's also a hotspot for firewood collectors. And how they operate is quite simple. They come up there, they push off the road into the bush, national park or otherwise. They cut as many, usually live trees as they can get. They don't chop them up on the spot, they just chuck them on the back. They get away as quick as they can. Then they take it back to their properties, they chop it up back there. It's nice and soft and green. And then a year later, it appears on the side of the road with a big sign saying so much a truckload. If you drive past one of these truckloads on the side of the road somewhere, firewood for sale, it really should have another placard. It should say stolen out of a national park. Now, this has been an ongoing problem. I think they know what about. There should be some sort of a scheme, state government or otherwise, to establish provenance for the firewood. If you don't know where it came from, it is probably stolen.
Yeah, thank you. Question here?
Just while we're talking about surveillance, our neighbours, we don't live on our property because it's been trashed by the fire. They've been chasing looters out of our place, and one of our cars was burned out and had been assessed by the insurance company. When we went back to see it one morning, we noticed that the car door was open and somebody had taken out the radio. So they're coming in and taking things. Yes.
Yeah, look, I know obviously the police, yeah, absolutely the police. We're in the Hume Command, so our base is obviously down in Mossvale. But report it. I'm not too sure. I mean, there's nothing that the council can do specifically, but certainly reporting it to the police is primary. Question?
Actually, Mark, going to about Judith's property.
My neighbour?
Yeah, one of them. We actually were looking after Judith's place the weeks after the fires, and we had that many cars down a little tiny dead-end road, and we were concerned about looters, and several times I phoned the police and they were great, they came out, but I did ask council if we could get barricades at the top of that road, because we were just trying to monitor every single car that went down that road, like they had no reason to go down that road. I mean, is it a possibility until Judith and Paul do get on their feet that we can get barricades up on that road?
Look, there is quite a lot of legislation around barricading off roads, and it has to be for a specific reason, such as damage or whatever. Now, if we do it for one road, there's a lot of roads that have got damaged properties, destroyed properties across the Shire. Look, I think what we'll try and do is speak to the police that they do some, some surveillance around here, drive-throughs at different times, so that there's no pattern of their arrival here. We'll speak to our commander and get that arranged so that they are around. And I know that they were around very early in the piece. One question, yes?
Sorry, I have a question about a bush block that we own in Balmoral that was burnt out. We just want some consistency on the messaging from council about removal of the trees that are burnt, fallen down and damaged, because we've had mixed messaging, and that's not in disrespect to anybody at council. I just think that the overarching decision hadn't been made yet about what's the best practice there.
So when you're in an emergency situation that we were in, there are powers that there are to remove vegetation that's threatening or dangerous and whatever. We're out of that now, so that declaration period is finished. So if you've got vegetation that is dead, dying or dangerous, all you have to do is send us details of that, photographs. You can send it to email to the council. We'll have someone look at that and then we'll give you clearance to remove that. If it's vegetation, particularly if it hasn't been burnt, there is a process and there's an application. Yeah. So if it's deemed to be dead, dying or dangerous, that can be removed, but it's just a matter of us having the details and giving you authorisation to have it removed.
We actually had given that to council and they said, we'll get back to you. We hadn't heard, and then we saw a document that said, oh yeah, you can go remove what you need to, and then that, and we saw a time stamp on that,
Yep.
which was after the advice that we were, before the advice we were given saying you couldn't. So then that's what I mean about this messaging. So at the moment it is submit as if you're going to submit a dead dying request or request to remove something from it.
Okay, I'll take it on notice, and Nick's our manager of planning, so he's responsible for that. But you might want to see Nick after that, but we'll make a clearer arrangement as well. Last question.
Yes. So you want me to take a pictures of 1,000+ trees and submit on 1,000+ forms?
No, you can take a panorama of the location, and someone will come out if they need to. If that's not enough information that you can provide, they will come out and have a look at it. But not all of the vegetation is going to be dead, dying or dangerous. Native vegetation has worked for millions of years to regenerate itself, and it's a matter of understanding what that generation. If it's on the ground, it's clearly dead, dangerous, gone, so you can remove all of that vegetation. Okay, so if you've got any more questions, by all means speak to the staff. They will be hanging around for a little bit longer. As I said earlier, this is the first of the recovery meetings. We will have as many recovery meetings as you need or want for us to help you get through this process. As I said, this is about the recovery initially. We will move into the resilience processes later. There is also opportunities to provide information to the staff, as I said, but we didn't have the boards. So I'd like to thank you all for coming along, being part of this process. I think you've got a lot of information from tonight from different agencies. We're all here to help you. So again, thank you and good night. Thank you.